Again, are you feeling burned out, anxious, or like you're carrying stress in your midsection no matter what you do? That's not just in your head, it's cortisol, and it has a direct relationship with the most stubborn fat on your body. Again, the good news is there are simple morning drinks that can help interrupt that cycle naturally. Today we're covering exactly how cortisol drives visceral fat storage at the cellular level, the 4 minerals your body uses to keep that cycle in check, and 5 specific morning drinks. Again, what's in them, how they work, and how to make each one of them. These drinks worked for a friend of mine named Marcus. He was struggling with his weight and blood pressure in spite of eating healthy and getting regular exercise. Again, I got him on a specific morning drink routine that addresses the cortisol-visceral fat connection, and he noticed immediately that he had better energy, better sleep, and his blood pressure dropped within the healthy range. Within 2 months, he dropped 15 pounds. Again, his blood pressure remained stable and his sleep has been significantly better. So let's talk about the cortisol-visceral fat connection. You see, cortisol is our primary stress hormone. It's necessary in short bursts. It gives us wakefulness when we get up in the morning. And so, again, we need it in order to be able to focus, in order to be able to exercise and do all kinds of different things, but it's destructive when it's chronically elevated. And for far too many people, they have high cortisol. Again, visceral fat is the dangerous fat that wraps around our organs and drives inflammation in our body. This type of fat contains 2 to 4 times more glucocorticoid receptors. Those are the same receptors that target cortisol. Again, and so they have 2 to 4 times more glucocorticoid receptors than other fat deposits, which makes visceral fat uniquely responsive to cortisol. Visceral fat cells contain an enzyme called 11-beta-HSD1 that reactivates inactive cortisone within the fat cell itself. Again, so the fat cell literally generates its own local cortisol supply. It takes metabolized cortisol and reactivates it into active cortisol. That creates a self-perpetuating loop. High cortisol results in reduced insulin sensitivity, and then the pancreas has to produce more insulin, again, and then you get higher insulin, which promotes fat storage in visceral tissue, and then more local cortisol gets generated, and that cycle continues. Cortisol directly promotes fat creation. It activates something called lipogenesis, the formation of fat in visceral deposits, again, by upregulating lipoprotein lipase, the enzyme that pulls fat into cells for storage. And the research confirms that chronically stressed individuals with high cortisol gain more abdominal fat over time, even with the calories controlled. Now, visceral fat is metabolically active. Again, it releases inflammatory cytokines that worsen insulin resistance and increase your cardiovascular risk. So there are 4 minerals that act as control points in this cycle. The first one is magnesium. Magnesium is needed for over 300 to 600 processes in our body. Again, and one of the most important is that it regulates the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. That's the system that controls how much cortisol gets released. So magnesium helps support GABA levels. GABA is like the brake in the brain, again, and it helps put the brake on cortisol-releasing hormone, the signal that tells the adrenals to produce cortisol. Stress rapidly depletes magnesium, which creates a loop where stress causes deficiency and deficiency worsens the stress response. So magnesium is really important, again, but also zinc. Zinc supports the brain's natural cortisol shutoff mechanism via the hippocampus. When a stressor passes, the hippocampus senses high cortisol and signals the body to bring it back down. When you have low zinc, that impairs this feedback, again, which leads to sustained high cortisol. So you've got to have zinc on board as well. And then chromium, which helps repair insulin receptor sensitivity that can be damaged by chronically elevated cortisol. Chromium helps activate the glucose tolerance factor, GTF, again, which is really key for insulin's ability to do its job, which is to basically bring the key to open the lock on the insulin receptor to allow glucose to move into the cell and get out of the bloodstream. Again, so chromium is really important to get sugar out of the bloodstream and into the cells so you become more sensitive to insulin. And then finally sodium, which counterintuitively, we see that aggressive sodium restriction can backfire. A lot of people say go on a low-salt diet, again, but when you're on a low-salt diet, it actually increases cortisol levels. And when insulin is low, like if you're on an intermittent fasting schedule, or if you're eating a lower-carb real food diet, or if you're doing intense exercise, or if you have a lot of stress, again, your insulin comes down, and then the kidneys actually release sodium more rapidly, so they excrete sodium. And the research shows that overly restricting sodium can raise both cortisol and insulin simultaneously, which reinforces that same cortisol visceral fat cycle. Again, so chronic stress will deplete all 4 of those key minerals, taking those natural control points offline and allowing the cortisol-insulin visceral fat cycle to run unchecked. So the 5 morning drinks that I'm going to talk about, they address the cycle from multiple angles. Again, hydration, specific minerals, adaptogens, and antioxidant water. It contains vitamin C, potassium, and bioflavonoids, which are plant antioxidant compounds. Vitamin C plays a role in adrenal function. Again, the adrenal glands use vitamin C at a high rate during the stress response, so there's an important context here. More research is showing that vitamin C directly lowers cortisol when it's used in high-dose supplements, so the amount in lemon juice is much smaller. Again, it's not like a high-dose vitamin C supplement, so think of this as supportive rather than a dramatic acute effect. Hydration itself matters though. Dehydration independently raises cortisol, so starting the day hydrated removes one stress trigger before it starts. Again, and then you've got the bioflavonoids in the lemon. They're anti-inflammatory and they support your antioxidant defense system. They support your immune system. They also support nitric oxide levels in your bloodstream, again, which allows for better oxygenation into all your cells and reduces inflammation in your body. Now let's talk about how to use this. You just take warm water plus the juice of half a lemon and a pinch of good unrefined salt. I like Redmond's real salt, again, and you do that first thing in the morning before coffee. That also activates the vagus nerve, which helps calm your body, which will help balance cortisol. That will also stimulate peristalsis, so you'll have better bowel movements, and you'll just feel more balanced and clear, again. So you'll feel a lot better utilizing that warm lemon water first thing. Now, drink number 2, matcha green tea. We know that matcha is a concentrated source of L-theanine, and it delivers significantly more per serving than steeped green tea since the whole leaf is consumed. Again, now L-theanine increases GABA, so it's a GABA agonist. Remember, GABA is the brakes in the brain, and L-theanine helps encourage serotonin levels. Both GABA and serotonin are calming neurotransmitters that are part of our parasympathetic nervous system that counteract the stress response. Again, multiple studies show L-theanine can buffer the cortisol spike that accompanies acute stress, and it appears to be a buffering effect on the stress response rather than a direct baseline lowering effect. A 2-gram serving of matcha, which is roughly about a teaspoon, again, provides roughly 40 to 60 milligrams of L-theanine, and that's within the range that's been shown to affect stress markers in studies, which is roughly studies show about 50 to 200 milligrams will hit the benefits. So again, a 2-gram serving of matcha, 1 teaspoon, again, provides roughly 40 to 60 milligrams, so enough for a mild clinical effect. The caffeine in matcha paired with produces calm alertness without the jitteriness of coffee alone. Cortisol and melatonin have an inverse relationship. Again, supporting daytime cortisol regulation also supports nighttime melatonin production, and that's really key because good melatonin production at night helps us sleep more effectively and helps clean up mitochondrial stress. So all the oxidative stress in the mitochondria, again, melatonin will slip into the mitochondria, and it's a really powerful antioxidant, our mitochondria. So we want maximal melatonin boost at night, and that's going to be based on supporting good balanced daytime cortisol regulation. So let's talk about how to use this. Again, we want 2 cups of matcha green tea daily, and that can replace coffee for a calmer, more sustained energy profile if you do better on that. For some people with matcha, they're going to do better consuming it with a meal. Again, some people get nauseous when they consume matcha green tea away from food, so consider that as well. Drink number 3, the cortisol cocktail. This is the adrenal cocktail. It's a viral wellness trend. A lot of people talking about this drink. It typically combines orange juice, again, coconut water, and a pinch of salt. Some versions add cream of tartar, which is a really high potassium source, or they'll add magnesium. Now this is an important honesty check. There's no direct clinical evidence that supports this specific combined drink as a cortisol-lowering formula. Again, health researchers are clear on this, and I'm not a huge fan of it because of the sheer sugar content in it. However, it's popular online, and the individual ingredients each have independent legitimate mechanisms. Number 1, you've got electrolytes. Again, sodium and potassium from the coconut water or the cream of tartar if you add that. Those support hydration, which reduces one driver of elevated cortisol, which is dehydration. You also have vitamin C from the orange juice that supports adrenal function, as we already talked about. Again, and then you've got magnesium, which supports the HPA axis, the brain-adrenal communication system that regulates cortisol release. This is best framed as a hydrating, mineral-rich morning drink with plausible supportive benefits. Again, not a clinically proven cortisol-lowering formula on its own, no matter what you hear online. Here's how to use it. A half a cup of orange juice, which again, that's a lot of sugar, okay, but this is the recipe. A half a cup of orange juice, a half a cup of coconut water. Again, I recommend a pinch of high-quality sea salt, unrefined sea salt from Utah, and then optional, you can add in a pinch of cream of tartar for added potassium. Again, this recipe is very high in sugar, again, so I'd only use it if you're doing a lot of intense activity and sweating a bunch. So if you're doing a lot of exercise, you're going to burn up that extra sugar, and it's not going to be problematic. If you're just sitting around your house, again, Really not a good drink to be consuming on a regular basis. Now, drink number 4 is ashwagandha in water or ashwagandha tea. Ashwagandha is the most well-researched adaptogen for cortisol specifically. Again, multiple randomized control trials and meta-analyses confirm that ashwagandha supplementation significantly reduces serum cortisol levels. Here's the mechanism. It acts on the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Again, it normalizes cortisol secretion and prevents excessive elevation during stress. One meta-analysis with 488 participants across 8 randomized control trials showed significant cortisol reduction with ashwagandha, again, though the effects on perceived stress were less consistent, meaning it may lower the hormone measurably even if you don't actually feel less stress. Okay, so ashwagandha works. It's clinically proven. Again, the typical effective doses in research are 250 to 600 milligrams daily, taken for 4 to 8 weeks or more for measurable effects. Now, how to use it? You just take an ashwagandha powder. I recommend getting an organic ashwagandha powder, again, and I'll have a link in the description for the one I like. And then you follow the product dosing, typically half to 1 teaspoon of that in water, and it can be taken any time of day. Though many prefer it in the morning or evening as part of a routine. Again, it's great to take in the evening to help you sleep better, great to take in the morning for great focus. But really you can take that at any time throughout the day, and you can also find teas, tea bags with ashwagandha as well. Or again, just use the organic herb, again, and you can use warm water or room temperature water, whatever way you want it, and just get that ashwagandha into your body. You're going to get some of these benefits. Drink number 5, an electrolyte drink that has magnesium, potassium, and more. And why this matters: quality sodium, again, unrefined mineral salt. That's what we want to start with, not isolated sodium chloride. Again, my favorite unrefined mineral salt is Redmond's Real Salt from Utah. Unrefined. It's got tons of trace minerals along with good quality sodium. Really good for your body. Also potassium. Again, that's the most depleted mineral in modern diets, and it's most critical for breaking the cortisol cycle. And then magnesium. We know that over 300 enzymatic reactions are based around magnesium. Some people say 600 enzymatic reactions. Again, and it's key for blood glucose regulation. It has a direct stress response modulation effect, so it helps balance the stress response. It helps calm the brain, and it really works as a brake on cortisol release. And then trace minerals. Again, we want broad-spectrum trace minerals that support every downstream metabolic process. We know that stress itself depletes sodium, potassium, and magnesium through increased urinary loss, which creates a cycle where stress causes the deficiency, again, and the deficiency worsens the stress response. So here's 1 to 1.5 liters of filtered water. Put in 1/4 teaspoon, so not much, 1/4 teaspoon of Redmond's Real Salt, or a similar unrefined mineral salt. Again, put in 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar that has 495 milligrams of potassium per 1/4 teaspoon, one of the most potassium-dense sources available, and then juice of half a lemon or lime, so you can use those interchangeably. If you can't find a lemon, again, you can use a lime. You're going to add trace minerals with that. Bioflavonoids, vitamin C, that all supports liver detoxification, supports healthy adrenal response and healthy stress hormones. And then optional, you can do a small amount of raw honey. Again, especially if you're doing it post-workout, you can do that. You can also add in a pinch of food-grade magnesium powder or liquid trace mineral drops that you can add in there as well. And then you drink that daily as prevention, or you increase it if you're fasting. Again, just keep the honey out. You can use it if you're exercising, especially exercising in the heat. If you have a lot of stress, or if you're doing sauna, then you're going to sweat out a lot of electrolytes. So then you might increase the amount of electrolytes you consume. Again, so when should you use it? I always tell people first thing in the morning because you want to replenish overnight dehydration. We're all breathing out a lot of water vapor at night, so when we wake up in the morning we're dehydrated. So taking in good hydration, again, good water along with a good electrolyte, okay, can be really helpful to really help buffer the cortisol awakening response. Right, so to help balance your cortisol levels out and make you feel better early in the day. You can also use it during or after physical activity or sauna use, again, on fasting days or extended fasting windows, or anytime you have cravings, fatigue, brain fog, headaches, or muscle cramps. Most likely you are noticing some dehydration and electrolyte deficiency, again, and so taking a good electrolyte drink typically solves the issue and you feel a lot better. Now if you don't want to make that drink, do what I do, which is I use a ready-made option. I like Relight, which is my favorite electrolytes from Redmond's, again, and it's my favorite because it has a perfect electrolyte formulation and it's flavored with stevia and tastes great. So it's sugar-free, uses a natural sweetener with stevia. You can also get it unflavored and it's simple to use. I just put a scoop in water every day, again, And Relight is made with Redmond sea salt, that ancient unrefined sea salt from Utah, and it naturally contains trace minerals. And it contains 2 types of magnesium for better absorption. There's no sugar, no artificial ingredients, just a clean formula that actually works. Again, I know because I use it every day, and it has unique trace minerals that improve cellular hydration better than any other electrolyte formula on the market, because I've tried them all. I've tried all of them. I know this one works the best. Again, it has the optimal electrolyte ratio with 800 milligrams of sodium, 400 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of calcium, 50 milligrams of magnesium. It's the best ratio. I drink those electrolytes every day because I can feel the energy boost. Again, I have better mental clarity while I'm working, and I have greater strength gains in the gym, and they've even improved my sleep quality, so I wake up more refreshed. And my routine is simple. I use the unflavored Relight while fasting in the morning, again, and then a flavored version like strawberry or lemon lime around workouts or maybe after lunch. I love the Relight, and it's just a lot easier than trying to make my own electrolyte formula, which I tried in the past, and I just really prefer using the Relight. Again, now it's important to remember none of those 5 drinks that I talked about are magic, but each one addresses a real piece of the cortisol visceral fat puzzle. From hydration to specific minerals to adaptogens that are genuinely well studied. My name is Dr. David, again, and I've spent years helping patients dial in the simple morning habits that move the needle on stress hormones and stubborn weight. Start with 1 or 2 drinks that fit naturally into your morning, stay consistent, and pay attention to your energy, cravings, again, and sleep over the next few weeks. Now let's jump into some of your questions. First one I get a lot is when and how much of these drinks should you have? And I really tried to address this during the video, but these drinks, they're great to have away from meals in general. Again, you don't want to drink with meals because it dilutes your stomach acid. One exception though is matcha green tea. For some people, including me, if I drink matcha green tea away from meals on an empty stomach, I get nauseous. So that would be one that, if you notice that, again, have that with food. Now in general, first thing in the morning is a great time to drink these drinks, especially the warm lemon water, matcha if you feel fine with it on an empty stomach, the ashwagandha, and the sugar-free electrolytes. Again, you can do that first thing in the morning to hydrate your body. Also 1 to 2 hours after eating, or if you're doing a longer fast, as long as it doesn't have sugar in it. The cortisol cocktail we talked about that has the orange juice, if you want that, again, you can have it right before or after a workout to help fuel you or to help your body recover from the workout. Second question, can I just use water and salt to help lower cortisol levels? And the answer is yes, actually that works quite well. I've used that with many of my patients. Again, a lot of times they have brain fog, they have low energy, and I just tell them, okay, take a little bit of salt, a good high-quality unrefined mineral salt like Redmond's real salt, put a little bit of that on your finger, put it on your tongue, drink some water, again, and it really works well to lower cortisol, and it's also a natural antihistamine. It's a super cheap alternative. Just make sure you get lots of zinc and potassium from your diet, so eat red meat, seafood, again, lots of colorful fruits and vegetables so you get the zinc and get the potassium in as well. So if you want to, that's super simple. Just take Redmond real salt, a little bit on your finger, put it on your tongue, drink some water, eat a nutrient-dense diet, again, and for many people that really works for them. Now last question, how many servings of the electrolyte drink can you have in a day? And the answer is it really depends on your activity level, the stress you're under, and whether it's really hot like summertime versus wintertime, again. But I would say in general, 1 to 2 servings daily is typically good. But if you have increased activity, you're sweating a lot, maybe you're doing a sauna or it's really hot outside and you're working out outside, then do 3 to 4 servings. And that can be really, really helpful. Again, usually I'm doing like 3 servings a day, and that tends to work really well for me. I'm always working out, I'm in the sauna, so 3 to 4 servings usually works great for me. Now hopefully you enjoyed this video and got a lot out of it. Again, be sure to share this with someone who's been stressed and stuck, and hit subscribe and let me know in the comments which of these 5 are you going to try first. And everybody, be blessed.